Today we're going to learn how to paint a painting of Dave Chappelle by me. Alright, the question of the day is, who is Dave Chappelle? Alright, today we're going to do a painting and political pop about Dave Chappelle. Alright, for the first stage, what we're going to do is kind of lay this paper up on here and tile it. I think what I'm going to do this time different is on these kind of strips. I'm going to cut these into strips so I can do more of them because I think I have more than I need for this, so I want to try to use more of the paper and see how that turns out. Alright, so the first stage is to add on that paper and see what it looks like. The next stage here is actually lay it in and then see how it turns out. Hopefully we'll do it right. So for this kind of material, you want to use kind of the gloss medium. Ideally, I'd be using the regular gel gloss, but I ran out. I ordered this by mistake, which I thought it was the same thing, a blick, but actually is a little bit different. This is more liquidy. So we'll see if it works out as well as our traditional gloss. Alright, we got the paper here. What we're going to do is, I think I'm going to cut this in strips to make it across there. It'll look a lot better once we combine that. For this paper, we're going to also cut it into strips similar to that HBO to get more on the page, so we'll see how that turns out. everything laid in there, and it looks pretty good the way it's working. It's different than the gel with the brush, and I like it. It's really holding really well, so we'll see how it dries. It doesn't look like it forms any bubbles, so I think that's a really good quality. It might actually work better thinner than my traditional medium gel, so that's what I would recommend. All right, for here, what we're gonna do now is do kind of a color studies of the different paintings. Alright, we just got on that initial gloss layer. It worked pretty well. I actually like this material better than the gel medium because it is, it's more runnier, so it doesn't get that many bubbles as the others. So I'm going to layer this on, a couple layers of the clear, just the gloss medium, and we'll see. That'll give us kind of a layer. So we want more of a layer because right now this will probably tear the paper, so we want to kind of have a little bit of section on there, and then we'll start adding the colors and later into the painting. We just got in that nice second layer. We're going to add another layer here and kind of build that up. We'll have to do several layers. Alright, we're back, and what we're going to do now is work on the main photo, which is of Dave Chappelle, and we're going to cut that out and then put it on the main canvas over there and measure it out, see how it looks, and then obviously start lining out what we want to cut out. right, now we're going to clean out those details on the stencil. For our next stage, we just cut out the stencil. We're going to lay it out and see how we're going to measure it up and down on this, and kind of tape that out. I'm not sure. I don't know, we might be able to work just on the surface without adding more. We're going to have to let it dry more. It's still a little tacky, but it's good enough to kind of tape up. We gotta cut the hat in here. I was originally gonna do the face first. I'm gonna take a risk and do the hat first. I think we're gonna do is the green yellow background. So maybe an orange or purple will make this pop. We'll see. We have these face studies. So I'm leaning maybe towards this color jacket, maybe this color hat as well, but I think purple will be okay. I'll do purple. this is drying, but I think what I'm going to do is add kind of a checkerboard, because it is a checkerboard beret. It doesn't, it just, in the photo it's really kind of a light tan, which contrasts well with Dave, but I want to have more kind of contrast. I'm using a purple, and orange will really strike against the purple as well. It might look a little clownish, hopefully not. Just a little bit overlay, and then we'll see how that turns out here. Alright, so what we're going to do here, since I'm here and we already have the orange, I'm going to make the orange jacket. I'm just going to do that all orange, and then we'll see how it turns out. Might have to add some more colors as we go. On top of that, I think what we're going to add is a little light blue and the purple to kind of two-tone it and give it a little bit more variety. It is kind of sticky tacky, so it's a risk of it pulling up, but we'll see what happens. That dry. I'm going to take the risk to pull this off. I don't think we can do many more layers here, so I think that's enough contrast. Well, hopefully it dries correctly, and we'll see where it goes next layer. I want to pull it out before it dries tight to the canvas. Alright, we got this layer on. It's a little thick, probably thicker than I wanted, but I did need a lighter color, I think, to work with this color. We're going to add a little bit lighter on here so to cover up a lot of that, but we need to kind of add some contrast in there, and then we'll do a final layer after that. Alright, we just got that kind of light brown color in here, so it's going to be kind of a tan jacket. That was actually the original color of the beret, so we'll see how that works out. We got to have the dark skin. I probably should have done that first to kind of get a real feel for how I wanted to work those colors. So I'm probably not working the best fashion, but you know, with my color studies before, hopefully I got the right combinations. We're going to have a dark green with kind of a yellowish outline, so we'll see how that works in the final stage. Alright, I think I'm going to add a little touch of purple around the ends here and then see how that works out. Alright, I think what we're going to do now is just take this tape off. It's been already a day on there, so it's going to be, it might rip up some of that paper, so I'm really worried about that tearing the paper. So I'm going to pull it off now. If we need to retape it later, we'll just do it. Hopefully that won't be the case, but yeah, we're going to pull it up now. Alright, we got the jacket done. It's kind of this light orange. I'm going to add the face now to kind of see how it works between the three elements before we add the dark green. I wanted to add the dark green, but then you're kind of limited to what you can do with the face, and the face needs to be kind of accurate colors and then work with the other colors, so we'll see how that works out. got that layer in. We've cut in the figure of the face. We're going to see how that dries. We might need to darken some of the edges, lighten some of the other edges, see how that works back and forth. And yeah, it's always tricky with face colors. It's a really hard thing to master. You really have to be doing it all the time. I don't really do portraits that much, so hopefully this, the colors turn out right. It is more challenging with African American. I'm used to my own skin, so it's like you have to kind of adjust what you're going to mix from pink to more browns, and you don't want to get it too brown, so it's kind of like that weird thing where you got this real subtlety within the skin, while white skin maybe in the shadows it's dark and then really light. So it's a little bit more challenging, but we're going to have those really harsh shadows anyway, so I think we really just need to nail kind of those really nice mid-tones. But yeah, we'll see how this dries. Maybe do the eyes and then maybe come back to the face if we need to. Alright, for this stage we're going to add a little bit of shading to kind of two-tone this a little bit, just in the major areas, and see how that is, pull it off, and then work on the eyes next level. Alright, let's take that off and see where we're at once it dries. Alright, we took that out. I think there's black here, but I'm just going to go ahead and fill that in so it looks a little better. Alright, we took off the tape. I'm going to add in a white with a lot of pearl white in there to kind of make that shiny and get the whites in there. Now is add a little bit more red to this orange. It's light, it'll work as is, but I do want, and it's kind of pasty and looks silly. The danger is getting darker, it's getting close to this color, so we're going to try to keep that on contrast. So we're going to let this dry, see how it dries. Hopefully it's, there's more contrast obviously. This is brown and this is more red now versus that kind of orange color. The orange color is closer to what a jacket probably would be, like tan jacket. So this might be a little bit unrealistic. We'll see how it dries. It should dry darker, so we should have a nice standout color. This really works. I was thinking of adding this here, but since we already have those colors, and that color is in here, so I was worried about that contrast. So it already had kind of an orange, so I just reddened it with a pure Quinn red. We'll see how that turns out. Our next stage will be kind of the yellow to dark green look on this next layer. All right, we got that initial brown layer. It's finally dried, really nice and dry. We can tape all the outline of this and add our kind of a yellow green background. We'll see if we change it up. It's kind of really simple right now. This is the only part that's really kind of interesting, is the hat. The jacket's okay. It's not as cool as I've had it in the past, so maybe I'll change it up with maybe some drip or something. It's still pretty light, so you can definitely add more color to this. This is really dark already. I'm probably only going to add highlights if maximum on the face. Hopefully the eyes lined up. I looked before and it didn't look like they exactly lined up, but I'll have to force this, and then if this is off, it's off, whatever. And so let's add that next layer. Alright, we got kind of a rough outline. I'm going to paint it in. We're probably going to have to touch up more closer to the inside once this is kind of fully laid in. we've added in that kind of really light yellow, all the way from light turquoise green, yellow, and then to a pure turquoise, and to a darker green, and then finally almost to a green black. So that's gonna have a nice transition, gonna really pull the center in, hopefully into Dave Chappelle, make him stand out. And before, sometimes, like again on my M&M, it didn't work very well. It was orange and orange and orange, and then you have a turquoise M&M, it looked crazy. So I think we got the skin color right. The hat looks appropriate. It contrasts nicely here, but not too much. Got the purple really pulling off the greens. I've covered up a lot of that purple, so we'll see how that plays out. I might want to come back here and do something with this red to make this kind of more contrast, but I'm kind of leaning it makes more sense of a tan jacket, so maybe I'll just leave that. Maybe just a little bit of highlights with this color, this nice burnt kind of to pull it together. But I don't want to get too dark on this, so we'll see as this dries what it looks like. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this off so I can get that yellow while I still have it. And yeah, just get into those nooks and crannies with the yellow. Alright, for this one, there's a little lip of the hat that I'm missing that comes out here that's in the shadow. I could just not do it in the painting, cover it up, it'd probably be okay, but I think I want to add it in here. I'm not sure whether to use this light blue or maybe a purple or the orange, we'll see. I'm just going to kind of layer it on thick to match one of these colors, I think. For this layer, we added that layer. The blues weren't exactly a match, so I just went ahead and overcoated it. It already was very opaque, so you couldn't see what was underneath anyway, so I just kind of add that in. It's going to tie it together a little bit better. We still have this kind of see-through level, so that's fine. We'll see if we touch this. I think for now I'm just going to leave it and let this dry. It's still wet here, so we can't do the black layer until this is really fully cured. So this, most layers are complete, but we got to wait for that final layers to dry. All right, we're ready to add this next stage. The blue's a little wet up here, but the paper doesn't touch, so I think it's okay to work on. I'm taking a risk with the blue. Maybe that'll not work out right. We'll see. And yeah, we're gonna start the process. Layer down. Now we're going to add tape to kind of fill in the gaps where the black didn't meet the road, so to say, and fill in those gaps. Got to this corner, finish this off, maybe make this much thicker since the alignment isn't perfect there. We got to fill this in. Oh, I got something to clean up here. Okay, so I got one more cleanup to make. I know I'm using a lot of paper towels, but it is what it is. So Dave Chappelle obviously is a very famous American comedian. He grew up between his parents, who were both professors, and his parents split. And so he ended up living in Yellowstone in the summers with his dad and with his mom in Washington, D.C. So he kind of got exposed to the city life as well as the balance of middle America, which really, I think, gave him the crux of that humor resonated across America, which is really important. A lot of people get kind of, you go to the city and then you're only in the city and you kind of get stuck in that city humor mode. And so by living, I think, in a more balanced middle America scene, he really kind of was able to cross that boundaries. So he did a lot of comedy, obviously touring around, even doing comedy in New York City parks, which was really genius because he just, got the moment and saw how people reacted right on the spot. He set comedy stand-up records, I think, for, I want to say like 5 hours or something, and then Dane Cook did 6, and then he tried to top him, and then he stopped at 5 or something. So some crazy 6 hours straight of, or 5 hours straight of comedy, which is outrageous. He also teamed up with this guy Neil Brennan, and first they did this movie called Half Baked, which is a stoner classic. Did 11 million, not too bad for a stoner movie. It's really kind of one of those cliquish kind of films. You're only, if you smoke weed, you like it. And later they teamed up. He tried to do this thing called Buddies. It didn't really work out because the producers were kind of influenced too much and had a lot of white people involved, and it just kind of fell flat, wasn't funny. And then finally he got his start in the Dave Chappelle Show, which was these sketches about stereotypes, politics, anything. Mostly black cast. Neil Brennan's white, so he kind of had a mix. So he had a nice balance, I think. And the sketches are just outrageous. One of the funniest stuff you've ever seen. After season 2, it was like this really hectic pace. Dave Chappelle was kind of sick of it, and that he was feeling like some of the humor was just going a little bit too far, too much racial stereotyping, just bad influence on the culture. I didn't get that feel. I know kind of what he's going for because some of his humor was dicey, but that's the role of comedy, is kind of push the boundaries, I would say. And so he took a break. He said, I think I'm done with the show, and went to Africa, and he had this big falling out with the producer where the producer wasn't going to pay him all the money. He thought he was going to make 500 million, and they offered him 50, and he's like, screw you, kind of thing. And then, after he left, the marketing director just trashed his name, said he was crazy and all this stuff, and put all this spin in Hollywood entertainment news. Not really normal people. Normal people thought, like, whatever, right? But he basically kind of trashed his name in the industry. So Dave Chappelle's like, screw you, I'm not coming back. And so Dave had already gone kind of on tour, recorded his own specials, and then he held them in his own vault, right? And then he just sat. And then boom, he releases them, and they're like these huge hits. I think he made like 20 million a pop or something, some crazy amount. So like way past that 50 million mark. And he signed a contract with Netflix to do 20 millions per release on these comedy sets. I think he's done 5 different releases of different comedy shows. So that's another 100 million. So he totally buried the money of Chappelle's show that they didn't want to pay him, which is really sad because I really loved the show. I think it really crossed a lot of boundaries and really did a lot of funny stereotypes, especially, I don't know, like black people make fun of white people called the N-word, which is just hilarious. Because it kind of flips the script on that, and a lot of his sketches, he flips the script, so to say, on those stereotypes, and it's just all-time classic comedy sketches. And I was just kind of disappointed they didn't do season 3, but how Hollywood works, I kind of get, like, the backhands. If people are treating you like crap, you just don't want to work with them anymore. So I totally understand that. But yeah, that's Dave Chappelle and the question of the day. All right, we just finished a painting. Let's take a closer look. So I have this really nice dark to almost black in the corners. I've left a lot of it see-through. You got that nice turquoise blue going into a little bit green with yellow, and then you got that yellow outline. The hat is kind of opaque. I'm okay with that. I think I can live with the opaqueness of the hat. It kind of makes a lot of interesting character. One of the challenge really was the eyes. They didn't quite line up between the stencil and what I originally painted, the white. I probably should have just done the eyes separately. But yeah, that sometimes happens as you work. It's like some things don't line up for some reason, even though you'd line it up in the beginning. You got the jacket. I'm okay with it. Texture-wise, it's interesting. Color-wise, it's great. It really makes kind of Dave sit off the page. It's a little lighter than his skin color. I think it looks more darker probably than he is. It's kind of almost in, what's that character? Fat Albert color from Bill Cosby comics. It has that kind of chocolate brown versus, you know, probably this true African American skin color. I'm not usually painting skin color per se on anything, so it's not really my forte. I can paint waterfalls water really well. Abstract, fine. Abstract, can do what you want. It's just kind of how the colors come together. So in this case, I did a lot of color studies, which I really think helped out a lot to prevent what happened in my last really big painting of Eminem, which is a really cool concept. I had all the lyrics behind it, and then I kind of screwed up on the color scheme, I think. And by doing that preliminary study, you get a real feel for how the colors work together. Got a little bit of feedback from my fan base to kind of, you know, check that to make sure it made sense. On his face, because there's a little bit of a misalignment, yeah, the eyes look a little goofy. I tried to correct it by, you know, making one eye a little bigger on the bulb and then kind of shortening it on one side. The shadow really goes over his eyebrow per se, but I kind of like took that out just so you could kind of get the feel of eyebrows. I don't know if that's kind of the correct way to do it. And then he has this really deep shadow under his chin, which is really impressive because it really makes the painting, I would say, per se. The ears aren't so distinctive. Maybe I probably should have colored those a little bit differently, like the highlights and the darkness, to really make those kind of stand out. But I didn't really want to draw attention to the ears per se. But in this case, it kind of blends in the background. You're like, what's this disc he has on his head? But I think it looks good. If you look at the stencil itself, it's fine. But because it's really dark to black, you really can't make out the stencil so well. But on the other hand, I really didn't want to make the mistake of making it like, you know, white skin. So you have to have kind of that really dark color, but it doesn't stand out against black per se when you add black against it. So there's a real challenge there. You almost maybe should outline a white, I don't know, or maybe a different color, like a purple maybe would have been better. But I always do this kind of nice traditional black stencil. I think it makes it look the coolest. Overall, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, color-wise, it's pretty good. It's just the eyes don't quite line up right. I did try to correct that, but I don't think there's not much I can do there. I can paint more white in the eyeball, but I'm just like, you might overblap the black, and we'll see. Maybe I redo that, but otherwise, I think I like it. Hopefully, you guys like it. Give me a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, you can subscribe below. And check out my Patreon account. I have the full version of this video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next painting.